have you ever wondered how you can best look after your beautiful instrument? I mean, you'd never want to find your instrument like that. Actually, it's only an old instrument. It's one I'll be restoring, so it's all right. It's all set up. It's okay. Today I'm going to talk to you about the things you can do to keep your instrument looking fantastic. There's not a lot you have to do, but there are little things you can do each and every day to keep your instrument looking beautiful. So let's get started. Alright, so first let's get rid of the prop. This is actually a beautiful old French instrument that I'm restoring. Let's start with putting away the violin when you've finished practicing. So the first thing you do is you put the violin away. No, I'm joking. The first thing you do is not put the violin away. So first you put the bow down, and then you go and get your cleaning cloth. And you give your violin a quick clean. You can do the same if you've got a viola or a cello. We don't discriminate here. So you clean the strings, you clean under the strings around the bridge, you can clean under the fingerboard, clean the tune rest, and basically clean the whole instrument. Okay, fantastic. While you're there, you may as well check if the bridge is straight. Is the bridge straight? Yes, the bridge is straight. Here's how you check actually. You get something that's square and you pop it on the edge of your instrument, so just onto the around the edges so that it's level with the ribs, and then you just hold it sideways and make sure the bridge is straight. If the bridge is not straight, I have another YouTube video that you can check out that shows you how to straighten the bridge. Okay, so now it's time to put the violin away. So let's put the violin away. Next, it's the bow. So again, get your trusty cleaning cloth and actually give your bow a quick wipe down from top to bottom. The thing is that you're going to get a rosin buildup. Firstly on your instrument, but also on your bow. So it's going to be rosin dust all over it, and especially in a hot climate like Australia, that rosin will actually start sticking to the varnish, and then you get this really big mess. It's not very nice. Also, just be ultra careful not to touch the hair around here. So many people do it, and you know, I'll do this beautiful new rehair, and within a week it's dirty because people actually touch the hair down there, so that's a bit gross. So give your bow a nice clean. Make sure you loosen it down. So just, maybe 3 or 4 winds. 1, 2, 3. So it doesn't have to be like hanging down like this. Doesn't have to be that loose. That's a bit too loose. Maybe about here. So you still, there's still a tiny gap. You also got to be careful, like if you're about to move into a really dry environment, when it gets dry, the hair dries out and shortens and contracts. And so you might put the bow away like this, and then you get the bow out and it looks like this. Ah! No, undo it. Okay, you don't want that to happen because that's really bad for the bow, especially if you don't play, like if it happens over a weekend and you take a day off and you find your bow super tight. That's just scary. All right, let's put the bow away now. And the final thing I do is I take the cloth and I fold it up and I actually put it on top of the instrument. Now when you put your instrument away, make sure you store it in a cool and dry place. Also store it somewhere where people can't get at it, like little fingers, little hands. If there's smaller children around, just make sure, violins are really interesting. And unfortunately, I've had to repair some that, little 2-year-olds found really interesting. And it wasn't pretty. So really look after your instrument. Think about where it's going, who has access to it, put it somewhere safe. If you're traveling around, always keep your instrument with you, or keep it somewhere safe. Never keep your violin in a hot car. If you do need to travel and you do need to keep it in a car that's a bit warm, then put it on the ground in front of the back seats. You put it on the ground, and then you get maybe a sleeping bag or blanket or something like that and put it over the top. And like that, I've actually been able to keep an instrument in quite a hot car for quite a long time, and it's created enough insulation. But it is, you want to keep, if you need to keep an instrument in the car, try and keep the car in the shade and keep the instrument underneath some things where it's like insulated and protected. But ideally, you should never keep an instrument in the car for too long. Yes, so at home, the best place to keep an instrument, to also keep it dry, is to keep it in a wardrobe with clothes, because the clothes will soak up a lot of the humidity. And that way, humidity is your real enemy. In Australia, sometimes we get torrential rain. We'll get 2 or 3 days of torrential rain, and the humidity is somewhere around, 95, close to 100%. It's almost like walking in liquid, and everyone feels horrible, and it's hot and it's humid. But the most important thing then is to keep the instrument dry, because if it gets humid like that, it's literally the wood gets saturated, and with the weight of 27 kilos down onto the top plate and the strings pulling this way, you can end up, so you got the weight down here, you got the strings pulling this way, it'll pull the whole neck down on top of the instrument, and it can reshape the entire instrument. Also the the glue can get so soaked that it'll actually start sort of liquefying, and all the joints open up and things like that. So you have to be really careful. Also, if you're close to the ocean, just be really careful. You need to always keep your instrument in the case, except when you're playing, and you need to wipe it down diligently. Ocean instruments, instruments that live within 3 kilometers of the ocean, are prone to some really big repairs. Now, when it comes to starting practice, you open your case, put your cloth down, check your bow for rosin, and if your bow does need rosin, make sure you don't over rosin your bow. If your bow is over rosined, it sounds horrible, it sounds really scratchy. Now I'm going to show you how to rosin a bow. So you always do the end small. So I always do do the bottom and the top a little bit more, and then I just go over it a few times. You probably only need to rosin every maybe 3 hours of playing or so. So you don't need to rosin your bow every time you play. And if it feels like the instrument is sounding a bit scratchy, then it's time to I wouldn't actually I wouldn't rosin up the bow anymore. You grab your instrument, you make sure it's in tune. So quite often when you're playing, oopsies, this is really out of tune. So I personally tend to tune the A first. I do this the old-fashioned way with a tuning fork. And so I just tune up the A. Slightly out of tune. So you can do the rough tuning with the pegs. So you can And you can actually do it like this. That way you don't have to hurt your fingers like trying to, like turning them like this. If there's fine tuners, but if there's no fine tuners, you will have to just purely tune with the pegs. So now the instrument is tuned, you're ready to play. Also be careful, if the instrument's been out of tune a lot, and you're tuning with the pegs, it can actually pull the top of the bridge crooked. And so you'll just every now and then need to straighten the bridge as well. The other thing that can happen is that your pegs are really hard to turn, so they click. I've actually done another video on how to look after your pegs. Also, if you need to change a string, I've actually done a video on how to change a string. But yes, that's the basic thing is to look after your instrument, keep your instrument clean, tune your instrument well, use good quality rosin, don't over rosin, store your instrument in a safe place. Also, when you're not playing, don't leave your instrument lying around open. You know, that's where most accidents happen. It's terrible. And the other thing is, when you're walking with your instrument, you know, I tend to always try and hold it in front of myself. That way you can guard the instrument if you're falling over. And also, yes, some people rather injure themselves than their instrument. Yes, so just be very careful. Look after your instrument and have lots of fun playing. That's the most important thing. Anyway, that's basically it. There's I have other more detailed videos on how to look after your bridge, how to look after your bow better. Well, I'll be doing that video. How to look after your pegs properly. I'll do another one, how to clean your instrument properly. I recommend just cleaning after practice. After you practice, and just with a dry cloth, and that'll keep the instrument looking beautiful, and that way you don't have to use any products that may damage the varnish. Personally I'm not a huge fan of products like of polishes you can buy. I recommend just you know, keeping your instrument clean, and then once a year getting it professionally cleaned and polished by the violin maker. I always recommend getting your instrument checked by a professional violin maker once a year. You know, it might not need much, but it's just good to have it, you know, have it working at its best. And have fun playing. If you like this video, press subscribe. Also, press the little bell next to the subscribe. That way you'll find out next time I post a video. Have fun playing your instrument, and I'll see you next time.